The year was 1881, and the Missouri Trail stretched wide and endless beneath a gray October sky. The trees had already begun to shed their leaves, and the world smelled of damp earth, wood smoke, and the promise of winter. Nathan Cole rode his chestnut mare, boots caked in mud, eyes scanning the horizon. Beside him rode Eli Garner, his oldest friend, a broad-shouldered man with a streak of silver in his beard and laughter in his eyes. They'd hunted together for years, through summers of drought and winters that bit like wolves. But something about this trail felt wrong. The silence wasn't the natural quiet of the woods. It was heavy, expectant, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Nathan adjusted his rifle and muttered, "Feels like the whole forest's watching." Eli chuckled, though not with much heart. "Then let's give it a show." They spurred their horses onward, unaware that the trail ahead would test their friendship, their faith, and their understanding of what it meant to be human. A week earlier, a telegram had arrived in Independence. It was from a farmer named Thomas Briggs, whose cattle were being slaughtered under strange circumstances. No ordinary animal, Briggs claimed, could have done it. The prints left behind weren't from wolf nor man. They were something in between. Nathan had laughed when he read it. "Probably just a bear," he'd said, waving the paper at Eli. But Eli wasn't so sure. "Bears don't walk upright, Nate. And they sure don't take whole cows without a sound." The pay was good, though. $30 and a side of beef for whoever brought back proof of the creature. So they saddled up, figuring it'd be an easy few days' work. But as they reached the edge of the Briggs property and saw the mauled pastures and silence that hung like a fog, Nathan started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the telegram hadn't been an exaggeration. That night, they set up camp beneath a cluster of cottonwoods by the river. The fire crackled as sparks drifted up like lost souls. Eli sat across from Nathan, knife in hand, whittling a piece of cedar into something shapeless. "Mary'll be 7 come Christmas," he said, his voice soft. "She keeps asking if I'll be home to see her open her gifts." Nathan smiled faintly. "You'll be back long before that." Eli's eyes flicked toward the shadows beyond the firelight. "You ever think some places remember what happens in them? Like the land holds memories?" Nathan frowned. "You sound like my grandma." "She used to say the woods had ears and the dirt had ghosts. Maybe she was right," Eli whispered. The night grew colder, and even the fire seemed to burn quieter. Somewhere in the distance something howled, a long, low sound that wasn't quite wolf and wasn't quite human either. The next morning, they found their first real sign. Near a creek bed, half frozen over, lay the carcass of a mule. Its ribs were cracked open like kindling, its insides torn away. But there was no blood trail, no sign of a struggle. Eli knelt beside it, eyes narrowing. "It dragged it here," he muttered. "Dragged it miles." Nathan crouched beside him, brushing aside leaves until he saw them. Prints. Barefoot. Human-shaped. But enormous. The toes were long, the heels deep in the mud as if the thing had weighed twice as much as any man. He swallowed hard. No man makes tracks like that. Eli stood, gripping his rifle tighter. Then maybe it ain't a man. The tracks led north, vanishing into the pines. Without another word, the two men followed. The deeper they rode, the darker the forest became. Even at midday, the light barely pierced the canopy. The air felt thick, heavy, like breathing through wool. Eli stopped suddenly. "You hear that?" Nathan strained his ears. At first, nothing. Then, a rustle, slow, deliberate, like something pacing them, keeping just out of sight. When they stopped, it stopped. When they moved, it moved. The rhythm was too perfect to be chance. Eli raised his rifle. "Show yourself," he barked. His voice echoed off the trees, swallowed by silence. A crow screamed somewhere far off, breaking the stillness. But when it stopped, Nathan thought he heard something else, breathing, deep and steady, not theirs. As dusk bled across the sky, they stumbled upon an old trapping cabin. Its roof sagged, door hanging from one hinge. Inside, dust lay thick as ash, and the air smelled of rot. Eli found claw marks on the wooden walls, long, deep grooves, carved in sets of 4. Something had tried to get out, not in. Then Nathan saw something carved into the far wall. The words were uneven, gouged deep. "Don't follow it home." He felt his stomach twist. "Eli," he said quietly, "maybe we ought to turn back." Before Eli could answer, something moved at the edge of the clearing, tall, thin, the shape of a man, almost. Its face caught the firelight. Nathan's heart stopped. It looked exactly like Eli. Nathan stumbled backward, rifle shaking in his hands. "Eli, behind me!" he yelled. Eli turned and froze. He was staring at his own face, standing 20 feet away in the dark. The thing tilted its head slowly, its mouth stretching into a grin that was too wide. Its voice came out wrong, like wind passing through hollow wood. "Eli," it whispered. The sound was enough to break Nathan's control. He fired, once, twice. The creature jerked, then melted back into the trees like smoke. When the echoes faded, Nathan turned, but Eli was gone. Nathan searched until his throat bled from shouting, "Eli! Eli, answer me!" No reply. Just the endless hum of crickets and the distant call of something that didn't belong. He found only Eli's hat, caught on a broken branch near the creek. It was torn, soaked in something dark. Nathan built a fire and waited until dawn, unable to sleep. The words on that cabin wall clawed at his mind. "Don't follow it home," he whispered into the night. "God help me, Eli. Where are you?" But all that answered was the wind, carrying the faintest echo of laughter. Morning brought no comfort. Mist rolled low through the trees, swallowing the world in gray. Nathan followed a new trail, footprints in the frost. Human, bare, dragging something heavy. He moved quietly, rifle ready. Then through the fog, he saw it. A figure stumbling, shoulders hunched, clothes torn. "Eli!" Nathan cried out, relief breaking through fear. The man stopped. Slowly, he turned. It was Eli. His face pale as death, eyes hollow and unfocused. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Nate, it got cold. Out here." Nathan lowered his rifle, heart pounding. "Thank God, I thought I lost you." Eli stepped closer, but as the mist thinned, Nathan saw it. Eli's feet were bare, caked in mud, and the tracks behind him were the same ones he'd been following all morning. Something in Nathan's gut screamed that this wasn't right. Eli's voice was flat, his movements slow. "Wrong. You hurt?" Nathan asked carefully. "Just cold," Eli said again, exactly the same way. "Let's go home." Nathan froze. Eli never called it home. He always said the farm. The realization hit like a hammer. Whatever stood before him, it wasn't Eli. He took one step back. "What are you?" he whispered. The thing smiled. "Your friend." Its voice cracked, echoing with layers of sound, some human, some not. Nathan raised his rifle, but before he could fire, the creature lunged with impossible speed. The woods exploded into chaos, the snap of branches, the scream of something ancient, and then silence. Nathan ran. The forest became a blur of color, gray, green, black. Branches tore his coat, scraped his face. Behind him came the sound of something heavy pounding the frozen ground, its breath ragged and wet. "Eli," it called. But it wasn't a call, it was a mimic, broken and desperate, like a man trying to remember how to sound human. He turned once, just once, and saw it through the trees. His friend's face, stretched unnaturally long, the skin too pale, the mouth trembling as if learning to smile. "Nathan," it hissed now, "don't leave me again." He raised his rifle and fired blindly. One shot, then another. The forest swallowed the noise like it had been waiting for it. When the echoes faded, there was nothing. No footsteps, no voice. Only the slow sound of Nathan's own heart hammering in his ears. By the time Nathan stumbled back to the old cabin, night had fallen again. His hand shook as he struck a match and lit a lantern. The warm glow did little to chase away the cold that seemed to live in his bones now. He barred the door and sank to the floor, exhausted. Every crack in the walls whispered. Every gust of wind sounded like breathing. Then came a knock, soft, slow. 3 times. He froze. "Eli?" No answer. Another knock. Then a voice. Quiet, almost gentle. "Let me in, Nate." "I'm cold." Nathan's eyes filled with tears. It sounded exactly like his friend. But he didn't move. Hours passed like that. The voice outside begged, wept, pleaded, sometimes as Eli, sometimes as a child, sometimes as Nathan's own voice. Until at last, silence. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. The fire burned low. The shadows deepened. Sometimes he thought he saw a shape through the frost on the window, tall, still, watching. He thought of Eli's daughter, Mary, waiting for her father to come home. He thought of the laughter they'd shared, the hunts they'd survived, and he thought of the way Eli's voice had sounded in the fog that morning. Wrong. Hollow. By dawn, Nathan felt something inside him break. He whispered into the dark, "If that's really you, Eli, I'm sorry." The wind sighed through the cracks in the wall. For a heartbeat, he thought he heard it whisper back, "So am I." When dawn finally came, it painted the forest in dull silver. Nathan stepped outside, eyes sunken, rifle in hand. The snow had fallen lightly overnight, blanketing everything in a false peace. And then he saw them. 2 sets of footprints. One his own, from the night before. The other, barefoot, human, leading away from the cabin. He followed them for over an hour, through thickets and frost-bitten brush. And then, in a small clearing beneath a pine, he found Eli's body, face down in the snow. Still. Nathan dropped to his knees. "No." He turned him over gently. Eli's eyes were open, glazed with frost. There were no wounds, no blood, only a look of frozen terror. Nathan closed them with a shaking hand. "I should have protected you," he whispered. The forest offered no comfort, only silence. Nathan dug the grave with numb hands. Each scoop of earth felt heavier than the last. The wind howled around him, bending the trees until they groaned like grieving men. When the hole was deep enough, he lowered Eli's body in, wrapped in his own coat. He carved a crude cross from oak and set it into the frozen ground. On it, he scratched the words, Eligarner, a good man, a good friend. As he stood there, the wind shifted, and for just a second, it felt warm. Almost like a hand on his shoulder. A whisper brushed his ear. "You did." Nathan turned, but no one was there. Only falling snow. The journey back to Independence took 3 days. Nathan didn't speak to anyone on the trail. He just rode, hollow-eyed, haunted. When he reached the town, the sheriff met him at the edge of Main Street. "Where's Eli?" the sheriff asked. Nathan hesitated, then quietly said, "He's gone." He took Eli's hat, the one he'd found by the creek, and brought it to the small white house at the end of the road. Eli's wife opened the door, her face pale with worry. Behind her, little Mary peeked out, clutching a rag doll. Nathan knelt down, offering the hat. "He wanted you to have this," he said softly. Mary took it, her lip trembling. "Mama says Daddy's in heaven now." Nathan nodded, voice breaking. "He's in a better place, sweetheart." For the first time in days, he managed to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Winter deepened. Snow piled high against the cabin walls. Nathan kept to himself, trying to forget. But forgetting proved impossible. Some nights he heard footsteps in the snow outside. Slow. Heavy. Other times, he woke to find claw marks on the door, as though something had tried to get in. Then, one bitter night, there came that sound again. 3 slow knocks. He opened the door with his rifle ready. Nothing. Only a trail of barefoot prints leading into the trees. And in the distance, faint but unmistakable, a voice. "Don't leave me again." Nathan lowered his gun. He'd lived long enough with ghosts. It was time to face them. He followed the tracks into the heart of the forest, the same woods where it had all begun. The wind roared through the trees like a living thing. The moonlight painted everything in silver and blue. For hours, he walked. Then, in a clearing, he saw it. The figure stood beneath the same pine where Eli was buried, the same height, the same coat, the same face. But the eyes were full of sorrow. Nathan didn't raise his rifle. He just stood there, trembling. "What are you?" he asked. The creature's mouth moved slowly, painfully. "I am what's left," it whispered. "You brought me home." Then it smiled, not cruelly, but kindly. The creature took one step forward. Its form flickered. Eli's face, then Nathan's, then something formless and bright. The air shimmered, the snow lifting in slow spirals around them. Nathan felt the fear melt away. For the first time since that terrible night, his heart felt light. "Go on then," he said softly. "Go home." The being nodded once. Then it dissolved into light and mist, leaving behind only the whisper of Eli's voice. "Thank you." When Nathan looked again, the clearing was empty. The wind had stilled. And for the first time in months, the forest was utterly, peacefully silent. Years later, a passing trapper found Nathan's cabin abandoned. Inside, the fire had long gone cold. On the table lay a journal, pages yellowed with time. The last entry, written in a shaky hand, read, "The woods remember us all. Some faces are not to be feared. They're just waiting to go home." Outside, under the tall pine, 2 sets of footprints led away from the cabin, both human, both bare, and neither ever returned.